Hey gang, and welcome back. These videos are brought to you by Card Conduit, the best place to sell your unused collection fast and easily. 401 Games, Canada's top shop for all your hobby and TCG needs. Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest decks. Moxfield, the easiest way to store and share your deck lists. And Foil Armor, flatten your foils fast. Benoit wins a die roll and starts us off. He draws and plays a forest. Kuzno's got a Scalding Tarn, cracking it and losing one for an island. He then swamp cycles his Troll of Khazad-dûm for a scrubland and passes after that. Desmond has his own Scalding Tarn, sacrificing it for a tap Sunken Hollow. Eric draws and plays a tapped Rafine's Tower. Benoit's turn has him playing a Tyrite Sanctum and casting a Sylvan Carotid. Kuzno plays a Badlands and casts Etherium Sculptor. Desmond draws, plays a Gloomlake Verge, and casts a Cold Steel Heart. It comes in tapped, and he names black. Eric plays an Adakar Wastes, and then loses one as he casts Hashaton. Benoit's turn has him casting an Augur of Autumn, and then playing a Bonder's Enclave from hand. He passes after that. Kuzno draws, playing a Mountain, and casting a Rogran Crystal. He then plane cycles an Angel of Ruins, and passes. Desmond just plays a tapped Submerged Boneyard, and casts half of his commander pairing with Zellix. Eric's got an island, and casts Fleshbag Marauder. The table each sacrifice a creature, and Eric passes. Benoit plays a forest off the top, and then casts his commander with Varis. Kuzno plays the Scrubland we saw earlier, and he pays 4 for a Master Transmuter. Desmond draws, plays an Underground River, and recasts Zellix, hoping it won't be removed. Eric's got a Plains, and then brings out On Wings of Gold. Benoit draws, and then plays a Tranquil Thicket off the top thanks to his Augur, and passes to Kuzno. Kuzno activates the Master Transmuter, returning his Rogran Crystal to his hand to put out Shroom. Shroom coming in reanimates the Angel of Ruins, and as the Angel comes in, it exiles the Cold Steel Heart and On Wings of Gold. Kuzno then continues by casting Astral Drift. Desmond's turn has a Command Tower coming in, and he activates Zellix and targets Benoit. He hits a creature, which makes him a 1/1 horror token. He then bestows a Night Howler onto the token, and passes after that. Eric draws and plays a Prairie Stream, and then casts Gate to the Afterlife. Eric then passes, with Benoit flashing in Yeva during the end step. This triggers Yaris, and he ventures into the last Mine of Phandelver, scrying 1. Benoit's turn has him casting a Llanowar Visionary, which lets him venture again, and this time he makes a treasure. Kuzno's turn has him activating Master Transmuter, bouncing the Angel of Ruins back to hand to put back out the Rogran Crystal. He then cycles the Angel of Ruins again, but declines to trigger Astral Drift, and instead just goes to find a Plains and plays it. He passes after that. Desmond's got an island for turn and activates Zellix on himself this time. He hits a creature, which makes him another horror token. He then casts Guilt Feeder and passes. Eric draws and casts Tortured Existence, an All-Star in Hashaton, and then passes turn. During his end step, Benoit casts Reclamation Sage. With it coming in, this lets him venture, and he drains all of his opponents for 1 with the Lost Mine trigger, and with the Rec Sage entering, he blows up the Master Transmuter. Benoit's main phase has him casting Garruk Wildspeaker, finishing the Lost Mine of Phandelver to draw a card, and gets to make a Wolf token from Varis. Benoit then plays a forest off the top, and upticks Garruk to untap 2 lands, and passes. On his end step, Kuzno cycles Vidalcan Aethermage, and attempts to flicker Shroom with the Astral Drift. Benoit responds to this, flashing an Acidic Slime, and blowing up Shroom. Kuzno then Wizard cycles for a Treasure Mage, and we move to his turn after he finds it. Kuzno draws and casts the Treasure Mage, which goes to tutor for Rune Grinder. He then shocks in a Sacred Foundry, and then casts Savai Crystal, and passes. Desmond's got a Swamp, and he casts an Overlord of the Baelmerk. He mills 4, and returns Captain Ingathrod, and then casts a Treasure Cruise after delving away some of his graveyard. Going to combat, he swings the Guilt Feeder at Benoit, and the Horror token at Kuzno. Kuzno chumps with the Treasure Mage, while Benoit takes the damage from the Guilt Feeder trigger since he can't block it. Desmond then passes after that. Eric draws, activating Tortured Existence, and getting back Fleshbag Marauder while discarding Temet, Nakamutan's Will. He gets a Hashaton trigger and pays it so he makes a token copy of it. Going to combat, Eric swings his commander at Kuzno and gets a loot trigger with Temet, which in turn pumps his zombies. Kuzno then takes the hit for 2. Eric's second main phase then has him playing a swamp, and he passes turn. Benoit draws and plays Nissa Worldwaker, venturing back into the Lost Mine. This lets him scry 1, but before the Planeswalker can resolve, Kuzno counters it with an offer you can't refuse, and Benoit gets some treasures and then passes turn. Kuzno's got a Volcanic Island for turn and casts Rune Grinder. He then passes, and during the end step, Benoit flashes out a Secure Tribe Elder. He ventures, making a treasure as he moves further into the dungeon. Desmond draws and casts Soul Ring, and then taps Soul Ring for Dimir Signet. He continues by casting Captain and Gathrod, and then casts Thing in the Ice. Going to combat, he swings the Horror token at Kuzno, and the Overlord of Baelmerk and Guiltfeeder at Benoit. With the Overlord attacking, Desmond gets to mill 4, bringing back Nemesis of Reason. Kuzno then Wizard Cycles Step through, and uses the Astral Drift to blink Captain and Gathrod. Kuzno then goes to find a Tribute Mage, and blocks the Horror token with his Rune Grinder, while Benoit trades Acidic Slime with the Overlord. Benoit does still take 5 from the Guiltfeeder trigger. With the Rune Grinder hitting the graveyard, Eric and Kuzno decide to take up the trigger, and discard their hands and draw a fresh 7. After that, Desmond passes, with Benoit flashing in a Wildborn Preserver on his end step, giving Temet -4/-0 until his next turn as he ventures further into the dungeon. Eric's got a Swamp for turn and casts his own Dimir Signet. He then plays out a Crypt Breaker, and going to combat, swings Temet at Benoit. Eric gets to loot and discard a Gleaming Overseer. This triggers Hashaton, and he pays 3 to make a token copy of it. Benoit then takes the hit, and Eric then casts a Wizened Mentor in his second main phase. He passes, while Benoit sacrifices a Secure Tribe Elder, going to find a forest. He then flashes in a Guardian Augmenter. This has him completing the dungeon yet again, drawing a card and making another wolf token. We then move to his turn. Benoit flashes in a Devoted Druid on his upkeep to start the Lost Mine again, and then draws for turn. He plays Yavimaya Hollow off the top, and then upticks Garruk to untap 2 lands. He then continues by foretelling a card and passing to Kuzno. Kuzno has a Verdant Catacombs, and then casts Thirst for Knowledge. He discards 2 lands, and then casts a Coiling Rebirth, gifting Desmond a card and getting 2 Treasure Mages. They in turn find him a Thought Monitor and a Demonic Junker. Benoit also takes this as a chance to flash into Llanowar Tribe during the end step, venturing again and making a treasure token. Desmond's turn has him casting the Nemesis of Reason, and then a Banner of Kinship, naming Horror. He gets 9 counters on the banner, pumping his board by +9/+9. Going to combat, he swings the Guiltfeeder at Benoit, Zellix and the Captain at Kuzno, and the Night Howlard Horror token at Eric. Kuzno double blocks Zellix, Eric throws 2 1/1 zombies in front of the Horror token, and Benoit then takes the hit from the Guiltfeeder, and then its trigger. Before damage, Eric taps 3 of his zombie tokens, drawing a card from the Crypt Breaker and losing 1, and Kuzno and Benoit then mill out the Captain and Gathrod triggers. Moving to his end step, Desmond then gets the Tireless Tracker off the Captain's trigger, and we move to Eric's turn. Eric's got a Swamp and casts a Wayward Servant. He then plays a Monument to Endurance and goes to combat, swinging Temet at Desmond. He loots off the attack and makes a treasure token from the Monument, and Desmond then takes 6. After combat, Eric uses Tortured Existence to get Death Baron back, draining everyone for 3 off the Monument trigger. He then casts the Death Baron, draining everyone for 1 with the Wayward Servant. Eric announces he'll move through his phases, and before the end step, Benoit flashes in a Pack Guardian, draining everyone for 1 with the Dungeon trigger, and discards a Forest to make another Wolf token. After doing math, he makes a deal with Kuzno to have him flicker the Pack Guardian so he can make another Wolf token to try and take Desmond out, and do some serious damage to Eric. Kuzno takes the deal, cycling Hollow 1 and flickering the Pack Guardian. With it coming back, Benoit discards another Forest to make another Wolf token, and pays the 1 for the Wildborn Preserver trigger. Benoit draws for turn and plays Nissa, who shakes the world. This completes the dungeon and draws him a card. Benoit then upticks Nissa to animate a Forest, and then -4s Garruk to overrun his creatures by +3/+3 and give them trample. Benoit then swings half of his creatures at Desmond, and the other half at Eric. Eric and Desmond block everything, and before damage, Benoit flashes an Orin Frostfang, giving his attackers Death Touch to go with their trample. Desmond then drops to 2, while Eric drops to 1, and everyone loses all of their creatures, while Benoit draws a ton of cards from the Orin Frostfang triggers. Eric does gain 5 from the Gates of Afterlife though, and with the loot trigger, everyone gets drained for another 3 from the Monument Endurance. In his second main phase, Benoit then plays a Forest and passes. Kuzno plays an untapped Watery Grave, losing 2, and casts Breya. With her Enter the Battlefield trigger on the stack, Eric casts a Swords to Plowshares to exile her. The Thopters then come in, and Kuzno continues by casting a Thought Monitor, which as it enters, draws him 2. He then plays a Baleful Strix, drawing another card. Eric plays a Champion of the Perished, and then recasts Hashaton. He passes, with Benoit flashing in an Ambush Viper during the end step. Benoit draws and goes to combat, swinging out at Eric. Eric activates Tortured Existence in response, bringing back the Wayward Serpent, and then blocks everything but the Ambush Viper, and takes 2. Benoit draws a card and plays a Forest in his second main phase, and then recasts Varis. He upticks Garuk to help cast a Glade Muse. This in turn has Benoit going back into the Lost Mine, and once he's done scrying 1, he plays a Growing Rites of Itlamok. He reveals a Seedborn Muse off of it, and then casts the Muse as well, and follows up with the Birds of Paradise. He then moves to his end step, transforming the Growing Rites of Itlamok into Itlamok, Cradle of the Sun. Kuzno draws and plays Command Tower, and then casts a Demonic Junker. He destroys the Birds of Paradise, and then recasts Breya, making 2 more Thopters. Going to combat, he swings the Baleful Strix at Eric and the Thopters at Benoit. Benoit casts a Sweet Glum Recluse before blocking, making a Treasure from the Dungeon trigger, and drawing out the Glade Muse. He then cascades into a Scrib Ranger. Benoit also gets to draw again, and then uses the Cradle of Itlamok to activate Vonder's Enclave, drawing again. He then evokes a Briarhorn, which as it comes in, pumps Varis by +3/+3. Benoit is then able to block the 3 flyers, but before damage, Kuzno sacrifices the 2 blocked Thopters and deals 3 to Benoit's face, and Eric takes 1 from the unblocked creature. After that, Kuzno passes, and Eric once more uses Tortured Existence on his end step to deal 3 to each of his opponents. Eric's got an Unholy Grotto for turn, and recasts the Wayward Servant. He follows it up with Champion of the Perished again, and Kuzno decides to let Eric live so that the trigger will take out Benoit. Eric then continues by using Tortured Existence to get back the Wizened Mentor, dealing 3 with the Monument, and with that ability on the stack, Kuzno responds by sacrificing his 2 mana rocks to gain 5 life. Eric then uses the Tortured Existence again, getting a Murderous Rider, and decides to draw from the Monument trigger. He then pitches the Rider, and gets a Plague Belcher back to his hand, and makes a treasure token off the Monument trigger this time around. Eric then casts the Plague Belcher, draining Kuzno for 1, and as the Belcher comes in, sacrifices the Champion of the Perished, dealing another 1 to Kuzno. With nothing else, Eric passes. Kuzno draws and goes to combat, swinging his flyers at Eric. Eric takes the hit for 3, and Kuzno then sacrifices his Thopters to blast Eric with Breya for 3 and win the game. Game review time. So this was another long one, but that's okay because everyone's deck seemingly got to do what they wanted to do. There was milling, there was zombie token making, there was dungeons, and then there was Breya. I think Breya was probably the strongest card this game and probably the MVP, but I'm actually going to pivot and say that Yeva was. It allowed Benoit's deck to really kind of pop off, and being able to have Flash in a mono green deck just changes the dynamic of the deck entirely. It was really cool to see. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.